Thank you for joining us. We are in the middle of our 8-part series on how to encourage our church leadership. And today we are in video 3, and we are going to talk about shutting down the gossip immediately. I happen to have been blessed to be at a church that has been around a long time. And when I was first there and serving and sort of a new believer, one of the pastors fell due to the sin of pornography. And my church handled it amazingly. The leadership was called in and told what was happening so that we could shut down things immediately. Even sometimes when there is sin and it's bad, people want to make it bigger and different, and it's really important that we know how to shut down gossip immediately. Also, in my church, our pastor passed away, and they were waiting to see who the elders were going to choose to be the next pastor. And it was kind of between two men at our church, two pastors who we personally knew and loved and were both good, dear friends of ours. And there was this weird Captain America Iron Man thing in the backdrop of our church, and it was like no one would say anything and no one wanted to gossip, and every once in a while something would pop up that would be a negative word about one of the people that we all thought it was going to be. And it was so important to shut down gossip immediately, or division, because Satan wants to divide the body, and it is a very great discouragement to church leadership. Division in the church, it turns their job into more of babysitting instead of shepherding, and it's frustrating. And so I just want to talk about a couple of ways to do that, because it's awkward, right? It's awkward if you're all standing there and then somebody says something bad about somebody else, even if you agree with it or don't or whatever. It's just awkward. And so I want to tell you just to remember a few things that I think will help your mindset and then help you actually get out of the situation. So remember that divisiveness destroys a church. You guys, you can't say ugly things about your leadership or your administration. You just can't. Like, if you have a problem with somebody, we have to use the Matthew 18 model, and you go to them, and if they don't listen to you, then you bring somebody else. And if that doesn't work, you take it to the church. There's none of this backbiting, none of this gossip. It divides the church, and it is destructive to the church body. And so many churches close every day because of pastors just being overworked and exhausted. And I just believe firmly that a lot of that comes from divisiveness and gossip and backbiting in the church. So remember that that's what that is, so that when you hear it, you can shut it down immediately. Now, let's say you're in a situation, somebody says something ugly. What do? Be a peacemaker. Now, we'll do a whole series on being a peacemaker later for our leadership training, but I will say that right now, if somebody says something ugly about somebody and you're all standing in a circle, think of something positive to say about that person. If you're not the bold kind of person to say, hey, we shouldn't be talking like that, that's gossip, that's rude. If you're not going to say that, I would probably say that. If you can't say that, then think of something positive to say about the person. And I've been in circles where that has happened, and it's a beautiful thing, because it's almost like it's a peacemaking rebuke, right? It's somebody doing the right thing to help kind of correct somebody without making them feel stupid, even if they are being stupid. So be a peacemaker. Somebody says something ugly about someone, think of something nice to say about that person. You can do it. You can do it. It's hard sometimes because we know people can be awful, but you can do it. I said this before, kind of in my introduction of this video, but don't let people speak poorly of church leadership or administration. You know what? The job that they're doing is difficult. We are not going to be believers who criticize without bringing solutions to problems and actually having those solutions play out with your action and helping. We're not going to be that kind of church. The church is going to encourage church leadership by speaking well of them or being quiet. This goes back to what you tell your kids. If you don't have anything nice to say, be quiet. That's what I tell my kids all the time. You probably tell your kids that too. We will not speak poorly of church leadership. Just like women are told, don't speak ugly about your husband in front of people. Don't speak ugly about your wife in front of people. Husbands are told that you don't, you speak respectfully about these people. You speak respectfully about the authorities that God has appointed in your church. Do not speak poorly about them. Okay, so to recap, we are going to shut down gossip immediately. This is a phenomenal way to encourage your church leadership. You're going to do that by making your mindset always remembering that divisiveness and backbiting destroys a church. You are going to remember to be a peacemaker. If somebody says something ugly about somebody, you're going to think of something nice to say. And third, and very important, is you're not going to speak ugly about your church leaders, pastors, or administration. I hope you enjoyed this video 3 in our 8-part series of how to encourage church leadership. Don't forget to check out the other videos here on Cedar Creek Ministries.